Every Nigerian, in his rightful sense, must be concerned. Must be concerned, not just because of the caliber of people that have reared their heads now for the presidential election, but because even the elections itself, the so-called democracy that we are supposed to be operating, is really not far from being democratic. It's far from being democratic because if you take demokratos, which is a Greek word meaning people's power, then how powerful have the Nigerian been? If you have a situation where you don't really partake in the selection of the candidate in the first place, and then after the selection of the candidates, we know how to use power is being usurped in this country. There are four main ways of usurping power. I don't say elections, because mainly you have the money bags, you have the police, you have the other instruments of coercion, and then you have the money bags. At the end of it, you have the courts to enforce this. So you can begin to talk of democracy in which people do not even have the right or the know-how, they don't partake in policy makings. Democracy is a system in which policy making that affects the lives of people are done by the people, either through selection or through their representatives. If you take the representatives that we have now in the country, say the National Assembly or the state assemblies are virtually made up of the house boys or house girls of the governors. They don't say anything. They are just followers of, they just endorse anything the governor brings. And this National Assembly, as it is presently constituted, is the worst National Assembly we have had in this country. They are supposed to check the excesses of the president. They are supposed to formulate laws that are beneficial to their constituencies, but they just sit. It's just about how they make money and how to please and appease the president. They just are waiting for the president to say jump, and they say how high. So even the democracy is in question, quite honestly. If you are talking of the rights of people to be involved in governance, there is no such thing as democracy as it is presently constituted. But let me go a little bit further. Most of the people that are rearing their heads today, you hear about power shift, you hear about restructuring, you hear about the North conceding power to the South, whichever part of the... Now, is that democratic? It is lazy. People who are calling for that are lazy. They know that they are politically irrelevant. They cannot make bridges. They are further fragmenting the country. You know, they are taking us back to regionalization of the country, the balkanization of the country. For what? And you get to understand that their only credential is that they have stolen so much money and they belong to a particular ethnic group. Is that democratic? Do people have a choice? And the whole lot of them do not have even the interest of the country. They are not even looking at the issues, the dire issues of insecurity, of a total breakdown of our economy, of the youth that constitute over 75% of the population of this country that have been abused, made redundant. They are not nurtured. They are not even part of any kind of, they are not even in governance. So in a situation where the youth, who are actually the energy source, who are actually they are the gauge through which you can judge any country. You know, their integrity, their intelligence, their wisdom is what gauges a country. But if you have a situation where over 80% of your youth are ill-educated, they have been turned into vagabonds, they are not even respected by either the government or the so-called elders, they don't even think in terms of their tomorrow, because posterity is dependent on posterity is the youth, actually. So when no one is looking at the situation of the youth of this country, when no one cares, when the youth have just been turned into cannon fodder for politicians, then you cannot talk of democracy. There is no such thing as democracy should be in the country.
Thank you, Hajia. Let's talk about solutions. Like you said, now with the youth, there have been calls, I don't even know if they're calls or just lip service, about a generational shift to create a more inclusive government, including the youth, and also the issue of age in this country with regards to the president and his age. I suppose the correlation really, the discussion should be about health, not age, because you'll recall that late President Umaru Yar'Adua was not old. He became president at 56 and he passed on at 59. So it's really about health. But there's that conversation now about a generational shift. But what exactly is being done by our political parties to ensure that generational shift? Are they just saying it because it sounds like the right thing to say without actually meaning it?
No, they don't mean it. You see, there's so much lies around this thing. You know, they say this, they have too many tongues in their mouth, our Nigerian politicians. And by the way, there's no difference between the APP or APC or the PDP, quite honestly, because they are just people that are zigzagging from one party to another to suit their own interests. There's no ideological difference between them. The difference is that of a logo. This is a broom and this is an umbrella. That is all the difference. However, coming up to talk about the solution, you see, the youth in this country have so much in terms of numbers, but their biggest problem is a crushing inferiority complex. It's a crushing inferiority complex that has been nurtured by the same people in government. The same people that have governed this country for decades are still the same circle of people that are at the helm of affairs, one way or the other. When Gowon was made the head of state as 36. In fact, Murtala, Gowon was 32, Murtala was 36. The Sardaunas were killed at 56. But today, someone at the age of 56 will still be referred to as youth because they want to keep them in bondage. For so long as they accept this bondage, they will never be free, the country will never be free, the country will not move. And you see, you also have to look at things from a different perspective. You can be a young man, but what interest do you really represent? You have to look at the interest of the young people or the young person who is aspiring to be president. I mean, age is not just it. It's not just about your age, but what interest do you represent? There are governors that are quite young, that want to be a president, but go to their states. They are just absentee governors that have not done anything. That the only thing that made them what they are today are the bullion vamps that was put in their houses for so-called election. So it's not really about age, but the interest that that person represents. I don't give a hoot about who becomes president for so long as it's somebody that I believe can deliver this country from the evil, from the stench that we are in right now. So you see, madam, it's not just so much about age. It's also about the interests you represent. However, there is nowhere on earth in which the youth are not recognized like in Nigeria. If you take China, for instance, China is what it is today for its youth. They have the highest number of young millionaires on earth. Why? Because the government made a concerted effort in terms of education, the manner of education that is given, and you know, the nurturing of the youth. You know, so in Nigeria, there is no such thing as good education. If you want your child to go to a good school, you have to pay through your nose. There is virtually total breakdown in the educational system in this country, and nobody is making an effort to do anything. So all those that are talking about the youth are talking about them because they need to use them this year for electioneering. You know, the elections have turned, is just about hooliganism and money. That's all. There are no issues discussed. Divide and rule through tribe and religion. What manner of democracy is this? So our youth are not even part of the equation. They are not part of the arithmetic. Nobody is considering them, because if they get to understand what they are, if they get to understand through education, through skill acquisition, every gadget you see here was one time, you know, invented by the youth, because their brains are highly active, they have so much energy. But in Nigeria, no one is talking about them because No one doles power to you on a platter of gold. So the youth of this country must wake up to their responsibilities. Nobody will dole you power. No. It's just like when women say that they will give us 30. It's crazy. It's not true. So the youth owe it a responsibility to themselves and to the country. To salvage the situation. I mean, when you take old people that can hardly walk, can hardly think, they are this way of, they have dementia, incoherent. I mean, there's nothing. Power has become in Nigeria, it's a personal property. Governance is personal. So you are just there because you want to service your ego, because you want to loot what is left of the treasuries of the country. So we have to look beyond that. We have to be able to galvanize our youth. We have to be able to give them direction. Like minds must come together and stop this nonsense of this party, that party. No, it's about an ideological difference. It's about a difference that will move the country forward.
Ms. Mohammed.
All these things, when they start talking of ethnicity or
Ms.
yes,
Mohammed, yeah, we have very limited time. If we could keep the responses short and straight to the point. Two things.
Okay, sure.
I thought I heard you talking about the excesses of the president. And when I was introducing you, I introduced you as a card-carrying member of the All Progressives Congress.
Yes,
it's very unusual for an APC member to come on television and talk about the excesses of the president of Nigeria. What are those excesses? And secondly, what are your thoughts on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill that has been re-amended and sent back to the president for his assent? Quickly, we're trying to manage time.
Look, let me tell you, some of the excesses of the president is his failure to really lead as he should lead. Being a card-carrying member of APC doesn't make me less a Nigerian. My loyalty is first and foremost to Nigeria and not to the party. And my concern is how to move the country forward. The president has failed in so many ways, like it or not. I'm the first person in this country to campaign for Muhammad Buhari. But I cannot also shy from the fact that he has failed the country in so many ways. Or there is not a single promise that he made to this country that he has fulfilled. And we just sit and pretend that we are APC, so we won't say this thing. And another problem is that they are beginning to gag the press. The press is the only way in which Nigerians can get their views aired, and the press is the only way. In fact, Muhammad Buhari went as far as saying that he is expecting advice from the press. Now, why is the press being gagged? So these are failures that we must see what happened to Vision FM. For simply saying that there is corruption in the NIA, and there is corruption in the NIA. So, but what they are saying is that they lumped up the NIA and the head of the NIA. The head of the NIA, we all know, the commission, the Baba Kingibe commission that brought him into office he was the secretary. He was the secretary, and that particular committee or commission that was created by the president actually made a recommendation. The recommendation was that there should be an overhaul of the NIA. One of the recommendations was that the person that should head the place must be somebody that is a senior director. This particular Mr. Rufai that is heading the place, who was the secretary of that commission, actually was eased out of that commission because he flunked the deputy director to director examinations 3 times. He failed. Having failed, he was eased out of the NIA. But the same commission that in which he was a secretary now made him the president, the head of the NIA. That is one. Number 2, the Ikoyi gate. The money is $43 million that was found somewhere in Ikoyi. We need to know, for saying that these are the resources of the people of this country. All the press was saying, all that Vision FM was saying is, why did they violate the same conditions that they set up. What happened to those monies? That was all. So for that, they were gagged. They have been levied 5 million, and the program, which is the most popular program in the North that I know, has been suspended for 6 months. So how do you get democracy under these conditions? So because I'm APC, because people must understand that what goes around comes around. If you don't, if something is happening to your friend, and you turn the other, then it will always come back. So, sir, what I'm thinking is that like minds should come together and say no to this tyranny. We must say no to the pillage of the resources of this country. We must say no to this extreme corruption that has completely crippled the economy and has taken the country hundreds of years back. This country has never had such insecurity. It has never had such the plunder and the pillage of our resources since slave trade. So what is wrong with us? So because I'm APC, I just turn the other eye? No, I will not.